From 2004 to 2005, Knights Kingdom had graced shelves with all manner of products. There were, of course, the playsets with some of LEGO's most iconic castles of the era. There were also the games, like the first ever minifigure scale chess set and the positively terrible Save the Kingdom board game. But chances are, when you think of Knights Kingdom, it's the action figures that come to mind. The action figures served as something of a bridge between Bionicle and System at the time, though instead of ball joints, Knights Kingdom opted for the use of ratcheting Galador joints. With the unique canister packaging and trading cards included in every set, the action figures felt wholly different than anything that had come before them. And for each year of the theme, LEGO would introduce 6 new buildable knights in the spring, and 2006 was no exception. While this would prove to be the final year for Knights Kingdom, when it comes to the action figures at least, LEGO saved the best for last. New pieces, new colors, new weapons, and even new characters, and we'll be unpacking it all in this penultimate episode of Revisiting Knights Kingdom. Let's take a closer look. The 2004 and 2005 waves of action figures gave us the same lineup of characters for both years. 2006 switches things up substantially, introducing 4 new knights into the Knights Kingdom lore. So much time has passed between the siege of Vladik's Dark Fortress and what takes place in the 2006 playsets that the original lineup of knights has retired. And after their defeat at Vladik's Dark Fortress, the Shadow Knights are no more. This time, Lord Vladik employs the help of some mercenary knights known as the Rogue Knights. And it's here that we meet Dracus. And something I absolutely need to highlight right away is the absolutely fantastic packaging that you'd find for 4 out of these 6 figures. Canisters are nothing new to Knights Kingdom or even LEGO as a whole. Obviously, they were used extensively throughout Bionicle, and the first 2 waves of Knights Kingdom action figures featured plastic containers as well. But here we get something truly special with our first ever metallic canisters. And I love everything about these. It makes it feel like such a premium product. LEGO has really embraced the medium here, giving the print a really nice shiny quality to everything. You'll see a few demonstrations of Dracus's functions, as well as the other 5 knights you can collect in the series. My favorite bit of these canisters has got to be the lid, which actually has the knight's emblem embossed into the top, so it's actually got a little bit of feel there too. These can be pretty difficult to find on their own. This was the only one available in the US that I could find, at least on Bricklink. I would like to collect all 4 available canisters just because it's such a really cool piece of LEGO packaging history, and I don't think they've done anything quite this awesome ever since. But anyway, let's talk about what you would have found inside this canister. This wave of figures really becomes the next evolution. As we've seen, things have come a long way since 2004. And the biggest upgrade here has to be the armor on the legs and the armor you'll find on the shoulders. These were brand new pieces that were designed specifically for these figures. As you can imagine, they serve very little function outside the theme, especially when it comes to the legs. This specific armor piece can only be found on the villains of this action figure wave, though the shoulder armor saw a bit more use outside the theme. I remember it most fondly from Exo Force's Battle at the Gate. You'll find it in dark red on the Sentry Mark II. But this piece also showed up in Vikings, and I've got a video on Vikings if you want to take a look at that. Clearly, these pieces are almost grossly over-specialized to the point of being borderline useless outside of the theme, except with a few very rare exceptions. But there's no denying that they look really good in just a regular action figure setting, and they bring a ton of personality to these guys. On the opposite side of the piece, you'll find a 2x3 surface area of anti-studs that just slaps on top of the regular standard joints that they've been using since 2004. You'll see here that Dracus is dressed up in bright light orange. I think it's a really nice color that differentiates him from the other knights that have come before him, both the good and the bad. However, this coloration did not make its way over to the minifigure scale versions of the figures. The decision to color the minifigures in regular old yellow armor instead has given them the unfortunate nickname of the Naked Knights. I'm guessing the color mismatch probably has something to do with the budget cuts that were taking place to Knights Kingdom as the theme wound down during its final year. I'm glad that at least the action figure here got to sport the proper color. And interestingly enough, all the pieces recolored in bright light orange are actually set exclusive here. And let's actually talk about that joint system for a second. While Knights Kingdom 2 wasn't the first to use these ratcheting joints, it would develop upon the system in a significant way. The much maligned Galador figures did indeed introduce the connections in 2002, and the joints would also find a home in Alpha Team Mission Deep Sea that same year. Knights Kingdom, however, would help ratcheting joints fully integrate into standard system sets with its modified, studded bricks. And this is probably the action figure's greatest lasting legacy. Some of the elements, such as the hands, saw very limited use outside of Knights Kingdom, only otherwise appearing in the Build-A-Bob SpongeBob SquarePants set. Other elements, like the 2x3 variants, had short but eventful lives, becoming integral parts of the Exoforce line. And then there are variations of these items that are still alive and well today. Take a look at the most recent lineup of Dream sets, for example. The ratcheting joints are all over the place here, and thanks to LEGO for sending these over for me to showcase. The Crocodile Submarine uses the Galador joints to connect its two front legs, and then combines that system with ball joints for the ankles. Nightmare Scorpion Digger uses Galador joints to attach its arms too. The Dino Jet takes things up a notch by combining two connections here in the neck for double the strength. This has become pretty standard practice, especially within Ninjago, where the limbs these joints support are even heavier than this assembly. You can even see that here in the Fox Guardian mech, where the system has been designed now with specialized pieces to accommodate multiple joints. All this to say that Knights Kingdom is a single piece of a vast puzzle that had a very clear impact on the LEGO of today. Being able to see the progression of something like these ratcheting joints from Galador to Knights Kingdom to Exoforce to Ninjago and then to Dreams is one of the many reasons I love revisiting old themes. Anyway, perhaps my favorite part of Drakus is his shield. Between the dragon sigil, the sharp edges, and the wonderful wooden plank texture molded into the plastic, everything here works so well. Like the action figures before him, Drakus has a gear in the back which allows him to swing his sword. The sword you might recognize as the same one that King Matthias and Santis used in Wave 2 of the action figures. I really like the look of this figure, and you can tell that compared to where we started with Knights Kingdom, this theme has aged really well with its audience, giving us more mature and better equipped knights than ever before. Next up, we have the Rogue Knight, Karzan. Karzan is described as being the master of weapons and deadly traps for the Rogue Knights, and he definitely stands out compared to everybody else with his sand blue and reddish brown accents on his armor. But the other color that I want to highlight here is Speckle Black Copper, a LEGO color that is exclusive to the Knights Kingdom theme. Here you'll find it on these 2x3 armor panels on the legs, the shoulders, and the helmet of the figure. Those make up 3 of the total 5 elements ever produced in this color, and the other ones we'll see in the minifigure scale versions of the sets. It's too bad the color was discontinued, as I feel it would have looked great in some Vikings and Fantasy era sets too. We got something similar in Fantasy era with the metallic copper, but there's just something about this color that really would look nice on the trolls too. Again, you'll see the same black leg pieces, though can you imagine if those were done in the black speckle copper too? That would look pretty sweet. The greatest innovation here though is that we're finally getting a new weapon instead of a sword. Karzan features this chained mace, which is just a brilliant new part developed for this theme. It would go on to be featured in Ninjago and in Bionicle 2, but it really feels right at home here in this medieval setting, and we'll see it in a few more sets too. With its momentum, this feels like it could actually do some damage if you're dueling with another knight. When it comes to the spiked ball here at the end of the mace, it's actually made up of 2 identical parts that are fitted together with an axle, and it forms a little loop at the top that you can wrap the chain through. On the underside of each of these pieces is a 2x3 surface of anti-studs, so it actually integrates really well into system settings too. Karzan also has a really cool shield design with his emblem of the snake. I don't think it's quite as awesome as Drakus's, but it fits the character really well. Karzan looks really cool. I think the color scheme here is fantastic, and it's probably the closest to being realistic that we've seen in Knights Kingdom yet. His minifigure is also probably one of my favorites of Knights Kingdom Wave 3, but we'll get to him in a future video. Well, now here's a familiar face. Lord Vladik is back once again, eager as ever to take over the Kingdom of Morcia. This, and all of the Knights Kingdom action figures for that matter, can be really tricky sets to get your hands on. I'm guessing these were made in vastly fewer quantities than the original 2004 and 2005 sets. So I'm guessing you can imagine my excitement when I managed to find a sealed copy for $40 a few years ago, and I have been eagerly waiting to crack it open for this very video. Now, Vladik here unfortunately isn't included in a canister, but rather he gets a standard boxed set, and that's because he also comes with this really fun side build, this battle cart that he gets to take alongside with him. And we'll take a closer look at that in a second. But let's break open this box and see what you would have found inside. One of the things that always surprises me most about opening sets from this era is the actual plastic bags that are used inside here. Note how it's got holes throughout the thing, which means that it doesn't trap air inside and can be compressed and fit into a smaller box. It was actually a really brilliant design at the time, but I'm guessing it prevented LEGO from printing numbers on the bags, because back in the day, you just opened up all the bags at once and were left to fend for yourself. It's a very different story today where things are very much spoon-fed to builders. I kind of liked this approach, and certainly for a set that just had a little over 100 pieces, this was totally fine. Also inside the package, you would have found this box, which would have housed Vladik's beautiful cape. It's not dissimilar to what LEGO does with standard minifigure capes today. And this is really fun, but you also got a little mail-in to sign up for the LEGO Club. It would appear that there is no postage necessary, so perhaps I'll try sending this in today and see what happens. I'll keep you posted if I actually do that, and if they ever get back to me with my LEGO Club membership. And the best treat of all is perhaps a beautiful new instruction booklet. It's a big booklet which features the entirety of the Knights Kingdom story in the back pages. We'll go into this in a bit more depth once I get to the playset video, because the progression of the story really ties in with the order of the playsets, but it's great to see the familiar Mike Rayhawk artwork here on full display. It's beautiful, and I love seeing these characters in this fleshed out world and environment. As a kid, this just made the story feel so much more real. So going back to the figure, this is of course the third iteration of Vladik, so it's really cool to see how far things have come since 2004, and this really feels like a worthy conclusion to the Vladik trio. It's his final form, Vladik at his most powerful. There are a few familiar elements here, including a recolored shield and torso from Wave 2, but the new stuff is awesome. Like a brand new and exclusive sword mold, a piece that once again just oozes with personality. The shoulder armor and the leg armor are the same as the other two villain knights we saw before, but they look just as good here. The highlight though is this beautiful tattered cape that flows behind him. I always loved the capes that King Matthias had in the previous two waves of sets, so it's great to see Vladik don one here, and it's easily the rarest part of an already very rare set. I can imagine this element, if you can call it that, being very popular amongst construction figure builders. It's just a really versatile color and shape. It would add so much personality to a brick-built figure mock, all the while keeping it LEGO legal. But the fun doesn't end with Vladik, because you've also got his little battle cart here, and this is just a big crossbow ballista. It's nothing too beautiful, but I think it adds a ton of play value to this set. This is the first time that we've gotten outside items that actually scale to the action figures, and it really doesn't take a whole lot of pieces to do that. There's a lot of big elements here on display, like once again the armor, competition style shooter in between, shot off with the bionicle eye there, and you'll see that spiked ball half here just to add a bit of detail on the end. There's a bit of maneuverability here where you can move it slightly up and down, and this piece in the front some of you Star Wars fans might recognize. It was originally introduced in 1999 with the first Vulture droid in old brown, and it would appear again in this color in 2007 with, you guessed it, another Vulture droid. As sad as it is to not get another one of those beautiful canisters, I really love the inclusion of this side build for Vladik. I think it makes the interactions between these armies all the more interesting if you're playing a scene out with these larger action figures. And honestly, more than anything else, it makes me want to build one of the standard playsets at the scale of these figures. I think that would be so fun. Let me know if you'd want me to do that, because if there is enough demand, I think that would be an incredible video. So let's go on over and see what the heroes are up to. Santis, Danju, and Raskus have retired, and new up-and-coming Knights of Morcia are going to take their place to take down Vladik once and for all. It is a pity to say goodbye to our original cast of characters, but I must say it's probably equally exciting to get some new ones as well. And not doing the 4 good knights gave LEGO room to give us some bad guy buildable figures, which I think was well worth the compromise. Here we meet Serkentis, Knight of the Stallion and Defender of the Kingdom of Morcia. The figure is laid out in a similar way to the villains, but he's actually got different molds for both his leg armor and his shoulder armor. They're rounder, friendlier looking pieces for sure. And it's well worth noting that the color you see up top here in the shoulders and the helmet is actually another Knight's Kingdom exclusive color. This is speckled dark bluish gray silver. Serkentis has a really fantastic shield here, and unlike the villains of this theme, he has independent control of both his arms with 2 gears on his back. He's also got a spiked ball mace here in his hand, which I really like, but rather than have it on a chain, it is fixed on a standard Technic axle. The torsos of these Morcian Knights are going to be pretty similar, and here you can see that they've actually tried to replicate chainmail armor in the printing, which I think looks really, really good. Like the action figures that we've looked at before, I think this does a great job of just maturing with the audience. He feels a lot more realistic than the Knights, of course, that we saw back in 2004. And I really like the attempts of LEGO to always bring something new to the table each year that they have these action figures. Fighting alongside Serkentis is Sir Adric, Knight of the Bull. Undoubtedly, the red color scheme and the strength that the bull sigil evokes leads me to think of this as some sort of relative of Santis. The design for Sir Adric might be a bit less creative than Serkentis, but one thing that I really like about this knight is the introduction of this giant axe. This element surprisingly remained a Knight's Kingdom exclusive, though I would have loved to have seen it used in a Bionicle set. It's only included in 2 other Knight's Kingdom sets, one of which we'll see here in a second. Many of the elements that make up Sir Adric's armor are identical to that of Serkentis, but you do get a brand new exclusive helmet here, and of course that beautiful new shield. And like Serkentis, you can use his arms individually, which is great to see. I'm kind of surprised they didn't go with dark red for Sir Adric, but I'm wondering if they just thought that was too close to Lord Vladik's armor. He's got a little bit more Jelly Bean Knight energy, and personally, I love that. Rounding out the Wave 3 collection is another familiar face. This is now King Jaco, who has replaced King Matthias on the throne. Judging by the complete absence of King Matthias in any of the promotional artwork, it's probably safe to say that he kicked the bucket. Regardless of whether or not you wanted Jaco to be king, you gotta admit, he makes for a pretty cool action figure. Much like Vladik, this whole set would have been served up in a box because you do get a very substantial battle wagon to go alongside King Jaco. Of the already very rare collection of sets that we're looking at here today, this one is by far the rarest. Currently, at the time of filming this, there are only 5 listings for it on Bricklink, and only one of those is in the US, and I think there's a $100 minimum buy on it, so you have to buy a bunch of other stuff if you want to buy this one at all. I was fortunate enough to find this at Atlanta Brick Co. when I was down there shooting the Christmas special of LEGO Masters in 2023. It's crazy to think that was 3 years ago, but I very much was intending to do this video even all the way back then. So that kind of gives you an idea of how overdue this video actually is. But it would take me a couple more months to part together some of the other figures just because they are so ridiculously rare, and Bionicle mockers love grabbing up these armor pieces to use in their own creations, which, let's make this abundantly clear, I totally respect. And this is a much better situation than compared to like everyone stealing Danju's helmet to make stupid spacemen. But boy oh boy, it does make getting some of these figures quite difficult and sometimes a little bit expensive. Jaco here too has another really awesome cape. I'm guessing this is the same exact cape that was included with King Matthias in 2005, just colored in dark blue. And the capes always just add so much to the figures. Jaco has the same leg armor and shoulder armor once again, and much like King Matthias before him, King Jaco gets to make use of very light bluish gray for his standard ratcheting joints. Very light bluish gray would see quite little use from this point onward, remaining practically exclusive to Mindstorms until the color was discontinued entirely in the early 2010s. Jaco's shield and torso are just recolors from his Wave 2 counterpart, but his sword here is also brand new and exclusive to the figure. And I love the detail that it's incorporated here. The fancy etching on both sides looks really great. And King Jaco's side build, his little battle wagon here, I think is even better than Vladic's. That's because it's got this swinging axe feature in the front. This is the same axe that Sir Adric swings about, but here you get two of them and they swing automatically with the wheels. Super simple mechanism, but works really, really well. And as if that wasn't enough, you get a really great catapult on top, once again making use of the leg armor for just a little extra detail and by only using one singular piece. My favorite element here though has to be the black boulder, which ironically fires a larger dual molded boulder. This piece is surprisingly rare, and unfortunately you don't get the top half in this set, but you can only otherwise find the black boulder in an education set and what appears to be a system scale Bionicle playset, polybag. And I desperately need to get my hands on this set. If it is indeed a polybag, it's gonna be perfect for some sort of weird polybag part 2 video. Once again, I think this added so much value to an already really nice set. The only thing it's missing is maybe like a giant flag or something. That would have been really cool. So there you go. That's the final wave of Knights Kingdom action figures. So often we see LEGO themes like this go out with a whimper or just maintaining the status quo, but I think the figures here left it all on the table. I mean, what's not to love? You've got two capes, side builds, brand new colors, brand new pieces, beautiful shields, exclusive prints. These guys got it all, plus the amazing packaging that even to today is unparalleled. It's amazing to see how much things changed from 2004 to 2006. The difference is night and day, especially when you look at the figures that have been portrayed in each and every one of these lines. Yes, of course, there is something fundamentally very un-LEGO about everything you see here when it comes to the overly specialized, borderline useless pieces and colors, but if we separate this from what LEGO should be and look at this simply as a toy, as action figures, these excel in almost every way possible. I would love to know what you think of these. Do you have any of these? If you do, be sure to hang on to them because you're never going to be able to get them again. These are so hard to find, but I love them. I really, really love them. As always, thank you so much for watching. You can look forward to the playset revisiting video coming very soon. And until then, I hope you have yourself a fantastic life.